Admiral Alexander Pierce, personal log. In the quiet confines of my office aboard the flagship, I find myself reflecting on the momentous journey we have undertaken. The year is 1934, and the rebirth of the United States Navy is a testament to the unwavering dedication of our sailors and the collective determination of a nation. The once dismantled fleet now stands tall, majestically ready to set sail into uncharted waters. Our ships gleam with newness, and their steel hulls echo the resilience of those who forged them. The shadows of uncertainty that once clouded our path are gradually yielding to the light of hope and camaraderie. Our reaching out to Britain and France has opened doors to potential alliances, a beacon of unity amidst the gathering storms of the world. The prospect of cooperation and mutual support in times of need fills me with a sense of profound optimism. Together, we stand as guardians of freedom and peace, and it is through such alliances that the seeds of security and stability shall be sown. Today's video is sponsored by the Block Zone. If you want to do something a little different than watch PC games, or play them yourself, of course, you can, for example, build the Bismarck or the Iowa, such as right here. I've done a couple of projects already. I really enjoy them. It's nice and relaxing for me, sometimes listening with a podcast in the back, sometimes having a video on. One of the projects that I have already made is the Humvee. You can see it over here. And Blockzone even sent me another project to try out, and that is a new car, which is very, very good news because my son loves this stuff. So here's my son and me building the car. This is Quinn. Yes, he's grown up potentially quite a bit since you last saw him. Really love to spend time with him like this, even though he's just putting his wheels on one single strip. He's still learning. Once you picked out a project, be sure to add code STEALTH as a discount code. It's going to give you a 10% discount, which can add up quite a bit. So, get to building. Blockzone link down below. Hey guys, Stealth here, and welcome to episode 2 of the United States campaign. Something is amiss in Vanuatu. Vanuatu's new leader was found to support armed terrorists who disrupt the regional trade networks of the United States, increasing the tensions between the two countries. The United States government decided to launch a swift military operation to occupy Vanuatu, replace the local government, and pacify the region for the coming years. A task force of at least 8,210 total tonnage, i.e. one heavy cruiser, is needed to support the invading force. How do you support this action? Yes, I think that's a good idea. So where are we going? We're all the way over there, because they have 1,700 men. It's gonna be some distance away. I do hope one of my heavy cruisers, the Scranton, can get there. I am working on a new modernization program, because in 2.5 years since I started building these ships, I have since researched diesel engines. I have been able to start getting better weapon systems. All of this stuff is going to contribute to my ability to get these ships here faster. This is interesting. Ships are alive in 3 turns. That's the Scranton alone. If I sent the Liberty with it, which is one of the new light cruisers that I've designed, it's going to take 2 turns. So I guess the Liberty is... It's actually slower. It has a lower top speed, and somehow they get here faster. Alright, don't question it. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation with the guys over there. I also had the same sort of event pop up over here, the Dominican Republic, but the operation there was a failure, so I was unable to get the terrain there. As for the rest of the world, the situation is fairly passive, I must say. I've reached out to France and formed an alliance, and everybody else, well, there just aren't any major outliers. The Soviet Union is a bit of an issue. But considering the character that I'm role-playing as is not that interested in starting a fight, although he won't walk away from one, I'm not actively going to pursue a war. Not just yet. After a few turns, apparently my forces have landed on Vanuatu and gained control of it. So the operation here was a success, and that means I get Port Villa. It's a nice villa. Its dock is a little small. I can only park 10k of tonnage over there. So let's have at least the Liberty, I suppose. Let's have the Liberty over here, and I'm gonna push the Scranton back into the actual base in the San Francisco or San Diego area. Problem is, it doesn't seem to really want to allow me to select that ship. I'm not sure if this has been fixed by now, but I don't think it has. Anyway, as that is happening, there are some further incursions. Honduras has pretty much the same issue. I need to displace more than 13,000 tons, so I've sent them the good news. I've sent the Idaho. Now, the Idaho should be able, with a tower like that, to see the other side of Honduras, basically without the binoculars. So I should be able to get a really good overview of Honduras and very quickly get them into line. And before you know it, the Idaho completed its mission and the United States gains control of Honduras. Now, when I set up the campaign, I had a goal, which was to improve stability and control over the region. This is not strictly what I had in mind. I don't mind taking control over Honduras, it's just not exactly the way that I thought this campaign would play out. Nevertheless, this is now ours. This port at 17,000 tons, not particularly interesting. So let's just send the ships back all the way over to Charleston. Are we expecting any wars? No, still nothing. We're gonna have to wait. A little while later, we find ourselves at war with the Soviet Union. They kept pushing us, we kept pushing back. I might be one for cooperation, but I will not be just walked over. So, the situation in the world is massively shifting as everybody reacts to this new reality. My reputation with the British is good. My reputation with the French was already very good, and I already had an alliance. The Soviets are getting some negative debuffs or some negative modifiers here, some positive with the Italians. Overall, my analysis of the situation is that the Soviets don't have a whole lot of friends. They are at the verge of also getting into conflicts with the Japanese. Potentially with Austria-Hungary if they keep pushing them. I kind of doubt it though. For now, my fleet is kind of tied up over here, no pun intended, in Thailand. Because, believe it or not, there were more terrorists in Thailand. So they required some assistance from my navy, and I was happy to provide. It's going to take me one more turn. After that, I can start looking after some of the Russian territory. If I could capture the port of Vladivostok, that'd be lovely. It's a massive base. Unfortunately, it is held by the area of the Russian Far East. However, while they have a massive population, they don't have a very large army. So let's see if I can move the fleet up here into the Sea of Japan and have a little chat with the Russians. The battle is upon us. We've cornered an enemy task force. This is the battleship Veliki Kniaz Mikhail. It is a Navarin-class battleship with a displacement of 45,000 tons, packing 13-inch guns and a whole bunch of smaller arrays. Also, a battle cruiser with 10 11.5-inch guns, and the heavy cruiser Russia with 12 7-inchers. Opposing force is the flagship. It's the Enterprise, the 1932 refit, a couple of battleships, one battle cruiser, a couple of heavies, and one destroyer. Let the battle commence. Battle has begun. The Enterprise, even at a range of 35 kilometers out, is opening fire. Her 16-inch guns reload now that her crew's been trained in only 50 seconds, and at this angle we have a pretty good chance to slam right through the deck over one of these enemy ships. And we have. The Enterprise inflicted some damage against the enemy battleship. Doesn't seem to be serious just yet, and I kind of doubt that these guns will be returning fire anytime soon, but good lord, they have a lot of them. Because this is all turrets, and then you got the casemates, and then you got the primaries. Look at that primary armament on the stern. That's a that's a hefty a hefty array of guns. I am moving the Sentinel somewhat off to the side. She is going to try and flank. I'm going to tell the Helena just to follow the Sentinel, although she might not strictly be able to keep up. It's fine. Now, let's see. The Kansas, with her 14-inch guns, does not have nearly the same reach as the Enterprise. So I think it is fitting that the flagship of the fleet is going to be doing as much damage as she can. She's currently looking at 16% accuracy. And if a couple of these shells slam true, that might very quickly be the end of one of these ships. Fortunately, we also appear to be missing by a substantial margin. I mean, kilometers. I want to maintain focus on this ship. And I want to maintain range to the target. Because the Enterprise does not need to go very close to the target. Everybody, we're going to follow in a line. I want the heavy cruisers to move up. Don't throw any torps out unless you're told explicitly to do so, because of the risk that we run into the torps ourselves. The range of these ships end at... Wow, the 8.3s have more range than the 13s. They have a range of 17 clicks, at which range they probably won't be accurate. The battle cruiser has 18.8, so what I really need to do is just stay outside of that range and let the guns do the talking for now. Because at this range, we should be able to get some fairly beautiful results. The Sentinel engages, and the Sentinel with her high-end HE shells at this range has a pretty good chance to get a couple of HE hits on the deck of the ship, causing substantial amounts of damage, as well as, of course, as her reload is only 30 seconds. It does look like the enemy battleship is already ablaze, but not yet flooded of any kind. Where's the big E? 26 clicks out. Maintain focus on this target. 22% chance to hit. Very good. Very nice. CAs, your torpedo range is not going to be as good as I would like. It's only 12. So we're just going to kind of screen for the rest of the ships. I want you to fire high explosive at the closest target, which happens to be this little speedy boy that they have over here with the 12 7-inch guns. They also carry torpedo launchers, so I have to be wary of that. But beyond that threat, I think the 7-inch guns aren't that spectacular. The battle cruiser is nicely coming in from a slightly different vector, looking at 21 kilometer range. Yeah, this is pretty good. Gotta make sure that she doesn't run off to the entire side of the battlefield with her little Helena cruiser escort. The enemy is now returning fire. Most likely against one of my cruisers. Oh. Range from the Enterprise, 24 clicks. That's about a comfortable distance for the Enterprise, I'd say. I don't really feel like I need to get a whole lot closer. Now, the Enterprise is kind of having to moderate her speed due to Idaho and Kansas, which are currently, well, kind of slowing her down, if you will. These ships can only do 24 knots if they're running flat out. The Enterprise can do a heck of a lot more at 29.4. Sorry, 29.3. I do like the look of these ships. Quite the potent combatant, it seems. Seems like a very useful warship to have. So far, oh, that was a good hit. And that has started some flooding the enemy battleship. I suspect that they hit one of my cruisers. Yet, I cannot be sure. It was an 11-inch hit. Yeah, it was on the Bridgeport. Okay. 16 clicks out, 14 clicks out. I thought I told you guys explicitly no torps. Yeah, there we go. Okay, maintain your range. It seems like the battleships and the battlecruiser have this. So let's let them do some of their fighting. After some more fighting, the situation for the enemy battleship is looking pretty dire. The ship's main tower has been destroyed, and as such, her accuracy, even if she's only shooting a heavy cruiser, is about 1% to 3.5%. The ship is doing really quite badly. She does not yet have any floodings, and even if she does, her bulkheads should be able to stop some of that. But the ship is largely getting destroyed by a couple of high explosive hits from some of my 14-inch battleship guns. The enemy battle cruiser, the Lipetsk, has not yet been sunk, but she has taken some order, and she does not yet seem to be capable of getting rid of that. Her accuracy also focused on a heavy cruiser. Most likely the stern, yeah, there we go, the Bridgeport. These guys are definitely taking away the brunt of the fire, and I suspect that this has to do with them being armed with torpedoes. The AI hates torpedoes with a passion, And as such, the heavy cruisers with all their torpedoes get prioritized very much. So we're going to do a bit of maneuvering, making sure that these ships are more difficult to hit. There you go, the accuracy of the enemy battleship has immediately dropped to 0%. She is swapping targets to the Bridgeport, but with no tower and a maneuvering heavy cruiser, I for one really doubt that they're going to be able to do much. The heavy cruisers are fighting against the heavy cruiser Russia. When it comes to price tag, these things are 91 million. They got quite a price tag over there. It's not nearly as much as my 111. But then again, my ships tend to be more expensive, although less numerous than those of the enemy. Now the Sentinel, all the way over on the other side, is trying to make sure that these guys have nowhere to go. Her 12-inch guns have been instrumental in doing 1700 damage, but it's more so her position that's going to be useful. A chance of actually dealing damage is fairly low. She has a really high ricochet chance. So with that in mind, I'm not really expecting her to deal a ton of damage. But considering she's firing AP, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of damage from her, so let's switch her to HE. The heavy cruiser just took a big hit, as a couple of 9-inch shells are doing just 600 damage per. That is the HE shell, mind you. And that caused some extensive fire aboard the heavy cruiser. Now with that, we have taken down 1/3 of the enemy battle group, and we have made a pretty serious dent in the enemy. Most notably, because I can now get the heavy cruisers to start approaching the enemy ship. And at 12.5 kilometers, I actually become a pretty viable torpedo threat. Even more so than the enemy might currently be aware of. The question is, what's the target? Because this guy has a turning circle of 492, battlecruiser 500. I'm thinking of spreading the torpedoes out a bit and making sure that they both get attacked. Now, the Enterprise has taken a hit. Fortunately, nothing serious. The Sentinel also took a hit, but both of the ships are still very capable of continuing the fight, especially the battleship, the Enterprise. I don't have to pull her away from the fight just yet. As for the Lipetsk, that's going to be more interesting. What is she doing? She's swapping fire to the Sentinel. I guess the Sentinel might be coming a little too close for her. We're going to turn the Sentinel back. Just let them take a bit more distance. Hoping that it's going to be more difficult for the battleship and the battlecruiser to take aim. Chance to pen is still really low. So I am going to continue firing high explosive at the target. And basically wait until the battleship is destroyed. Before I push the battlecruiser and potentially the heavy cruiser in. I might... Yeah, let's detach the heavy cruiser, the Helena. See if I can send some torpedoes against this general target. Because at this range, if it does not hit the battleship, it can still hit the battlecruiser. The heavy cruisers were initially planning, rather I was planning with them, to go on the offensive against the battleship. At this point, I'm not even sure if I have to. Focus down the battlecruiser, because I think the battleships might have the battleship in hand. They're still trying to hit the heavy cruisers, but probably to no avail. The amount of fires on this ship are serious, but I don't think I can overwhelm the damage control parties, because they've got a lot of crew on there. Over here, they've taken 36% losses, again with spacious quarters. Yeah, the Lipetsk is getting attacked from both ends, starting to take more flooding, destroying secondary guns. Helena, have you torped yet? You have. Excellent. So here's the torpedo group. Whether they're going to hit anything, I don't know. The BC has backed off sufficiently so, yet is still accurate. Like these wolves are smelling blood in the water. We're going to send the torpedoes against the battleship, because she's not dead. The battlecruiser will be. So send the torps, South Dakota, St. Louis, and Bridgeport, and then get out. Because this battleship is definitely not down, and it can still pepper you with all sorts of guns. So best be careful. St. Louis denied launch. Certain as to why. Gentlemen, would you kindly? Is that because the enemy target is moving, maybe? Like it's currently shifting direction. At this point, it doesn't really matter. The ship is badly flooded. Structural integrity is dropping. And 4 torpedoes slam into the port side of the Veliki. Basically, good night for her. That is a decisive first battle against the Russians. I didn't bring the fight, they did. I just showed up with the battleships. And there you go, she surrendered due to high casualties. Now, of course, this is not just going to end the war directly. I rather doubt that, but it did give me about 11,000 victory points. So that's a fantastic first result. A few months later, November 1934, apparently Cuba has decided to disrupt regional trade. Terrorism. Thanks, Cuba. Appreciate it. This is not the first time that they've done this, but so far my fleet's been engaged in other activities. Extracurriculars, if you will. This time around, I do have enough ships around Cuba to actually go on the offensive. I need 163,000 tons. It's quite a bit. So yes, I will support this action. I'm also supporting this action, which is an attack from the United States against the Russian Far East. Now, they do have a ton of soldiers, so I'm not particularly likely to win this fight. Chance to succeed is a whole 12%. I wonder if that goes up. I haven't actually seen that chance to succeed yet. Anyway, over to the Cuban area. The Cuban area is going to need 163,000 tons. I can start sending light cruisers, but I think sending something like the Indiana, a battleship of 30,000 tons is actually going to make a bit more of a dent in the whole situation. I'm probably going to have to pull pretty much every single ship that I still have flying around. See, this helps. This is 80, this is going to work. Unfortunately, the Hawaii is being refit, so I only have 1 battle cruiser available. Do I have more in Boston or Portland? Not really. Pensacola. Cologne used to have a ship? No, I already sent that out. The Ranger. How quickly can you get here? 1 turn. Excellent. So, we're doing 2 naval invasions at the same time. And how likely we are to actually get these, I'm not sure. It gives me some time to introduce the rest of the fleet to you. Because I've been building a lot. Now, a lot of these ships are destroyers. A lot of them are still being built. Because I found that I don't have enough minesweeping capabilities. So, getting a whole bunch more destroyers should make for another assisting force for, well, dealing with submarines, dealing with mines. As for light cruisers, quite a few. I'm still building some new light cruisers. I have a whole bunch of heavy cruisers, most of them at sea. And when it comes to battle cruisers, I have been building just, well, almost consistently these things, especially with my massive budget. So we're going to be having a lot of the Sentinels. And we also have quite a lot of our North Carolina class. I really do like the North Carolinas because they're fairly cheap. They cost 34 million per month. Sorry, that's the Enterprise. They cost 13 million per month, which is really not that bad. The battle cruisers are more expensive at 24 million. And of course, if they're under construction, they're not as expensive. But still, now, of course, these displace more. So we're going to have a pretty powerful navy capable of hitting anywhere. Doing, ideally, multiple naval operations or multiple naval incursions at the same time. And potentially, we'll be able to get this bit of territory from the Russians. Which would be nice, because that's a really big port. As these naval invasions are occurring, I've decided that I want a new flagship. Now, you might argue, that's a bit quick, because the Enterprise really has not been in service for very long. And you'd be right, the Enterprise has not been in service for very long. The deal, however, is, while she was fielded in 1932, tech has improved a lot. And I want to make sure that I do keep up with that. Right now, a 55,000 ton warship is probably still sufficient. Eventually, that will not be the case. Because eventually the enemy will also be building bigger ships. And especially considering that these things have a build time of 26 months and a bigger ship is going to have an even bigger build time, I want to make sure that I stay ahead of the curve. So we're going to be building a new flagship, which is going to relieve the Enterprise of her position as flagship. We're going to relocate the Enterprise command, if you will, to the new ship. Now, I can build up to 109,000 tons, but I will not do that. The simple reason is, if I do something that big, I'm going to have such massive advantages over the AI that it's just not going to be very fun to play. The game then becomes, well, not a steamroll, but it becomes a heck of a lot easier. So we're going to be building a ship that is 80,000 tons, and right now that is something that I'm going to be sticking with as the biggest ship that I will have. It does mean that I'll also be able to get some bigger ships up to 80,000 tons. Again, I don't want to have too many because, you know, steamroll, easy, etc. But nevertheless, they are going to be capable warships, and I might need to get a couple more out them. Because I do like the 40,000 ton battle cruisers, and I think we can potentially add like maybe a couple of the Enterprise class. Sonar and RDF. Okay, let's go with a funnel system. I'm thinking I can add maybe 3 funnels. That would give me quite a lot of funnel cap. If you get more funnel cap, you get a lot more range. That's 26,000 kilometers, and now we are on 33. Now we're on, yep, 38,000 kilometers. 43,926. This ship has some range. Alright, center guns. I got the Mark III 18s. I'm only allowed dual barrels. Even the 19-inch. Holy moly. I'm thinking 18-inch dual barrels. I know that some people dislike the dual barrel system. It's one of the limitations that I set for myself, because otherwise I'm going to have ships sailing around with 18-inch quadruple barrels, which might make for fun viewing, but my concern is that I'll just blow whatever I happen to encounter right out of the water, meaning that, again, the AI gets completely and utterly steamrolled to the point where it's just not that interesting. Looking at my semi-AP shells, I'm thinking that's good enough. I'm thinking this ship, let's extend the barrels, this ship is going to have some really good accuracy at, let's say, actually it's not that good. Wait a second, this ship gets accurate, and I'm saying accurate is in plus 10%, at 7,500 meters? How is that? Because this guy... Go away. That's curious. I thought... Oh! Yeah, I get it. Here's the deal. The game keeps getting updated, which means I was recording episode 2 yesterday. Today, we already have a new version, and that means that the... balance mod from Admiral Snackbar is unfortunately not working. To that end, the stats of the guns have changed. Again. Now fortunately, it does not seem to be breaking any saves, at least not yet. And I'm really hoping that long may that continue. So the real question is, can we actually trust the numbers that we see? And I think the answer is going to be a resounding no. Because the stats are going to change once we get the rebalancer mod, or the balance mod, working again. So that's a bit unfortunate. What are you concerned with? There we go. Let's give it a 15-inch main belt. We're going to go with a 5-inch forebelt and a 5-inch aft belt, for the reasons that I don't believe we're going to be taking a whole bunch of ranged fire directly into the side of the ship. I'm thinking deck is going to be a lot more important. If I can get 6 or maybe even 7, that's a really heavily defended ship. Now, range on these plus 20. I didn't used to be able to do that. Not in the balance mod. We got modern armor. 45,000 kilometers. Good lord. She's a bit stern heavy though. If I pull this turret in... No, I'm gonna have to shift the superstructure. Alright, ship is balanced. Mostly. She is slightly overweight. If I can pull the stern turret back in, that should fix that. Because your citadel gets smaller. She also has her torpedo launchers now. And I've given her the oxygen fuel torpedoes. Because these are really long range. They're slightly more likely to get detected. But the ship now has torpedoes which can hit out to a range of 22.9 kilometers. That is, however, with the vanilla stats. It is not with the gun balancer stats. Sorry, with the balance mod stats. So take these with a grain of salt. Still, if these things hit, they'll inflict some substantial damage. It does, however, limit the firing arc of this gun. Now, you could make the case, well, if that's such a problem, why don't you just add a barbette? Well, adding a barbette is going to make this thing a lot heavier. Because we're going to have to field something like that. 400 tons of barbettes. And that means I have to sacrifice armor, which I don't really want to do. Now, let's see if I can add some 3-inchers. I can. And unfortunately, once again, the ship is slightly too heavy. I can take away a bit of her range. There we go. And with the rest of that weight, let's see if I can add 2-inchers. And the answer is yes, because the ship has quite a bit of room for these 2-inchers. Like a lot. Good lord. Oh, you don't like that. Okay. I'll prior the 3-inchers over the 2-inchers. So, we now have 52 2-inch guns, 16 3-inch guns, 26-inch guns, and 6 18-inch guns. That should be enough to stop most threats. I'm saying most because submarines can still pose a serious threat to this ship. You just won't see them in game. Or, well, you won't see them actually fight this ship. As for my HE shells, I want to change them a bit. What about cap ballistic? That's going to give me that half and half chance to pen, if you will, but still deal 6,000 damage. No, it's not really worth it, because AP does more. High cap? There we go, 11,000 HE damage. Sounds good. Alright, this is the ship I'm willing to accept. So, this is going to be the Sovereign. The Sovereign class battleship. The new flagship of the fleet. It's going to take me a while to build one of these, but it'll be worth it. And there she is, the Sovereign. She's going to take me 30 months to build, relative to the Enterprise's 27. So, despite being a good bit heavier, we're going from 55,000 to 80,000. It only takes them 3 more months. That's pretty respectable. Now, up until such a point where this new battleship, or the new Sovereign, is... Where is this Sovereign? Where the new Sovereign is actually going to be fielded, there she is. The Enterprise will maintain as her position of flagship. So she's going to maintain that title until she gets relieved. Well, it looks like we gained a nice warm island. We've gained control of Cuba, and I have not gained control of the Russian Far East. Makes a lot of sense, because I had about 10% chance of actually winning this fight. It had way too much resistance. Can I try somewhere else? Can I try, like, maybe in Kamchatka? Yeah, perhaps. It does have the Petropavlovsk port. So I guess we'll be taking the whole fleet somewhere else. But all of that and more to come in future episodes. Thank you guys for joining the series. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you soon for the next episode.